A very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to a very special chat with our dear friend Patrick Hawes. Hi, Patrick.
Hi Ben, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm tanned because I've just got back from Tenerife.
Well, welcome back to the UK with its interesting weather at this time of year. I imagine that was a little bit of a shock coming back from, what did you say, 28 degrees?
Yeah, we left Tenerife airport at 28 degrees and arrived at Stansted -2, which
There'll
is a
be,
shock to the
there'll
system,
be
Ben.
people watching this at the moment, huddled up, just grinding their teeth. But it'll be summer before long, and then we'll all be moaning about how hot it is. Now, look, of course, this time of year, it's a big time of year for those who love classical music because Classic FM, well, they've got their Hall of Fame out, haven't they?
They certainly have, and it's billed, isn't it, as the most extensive survey of classical music in the world.
I think they might be right. It's 300 places on this Hall of Fame, and the voting is open at the moment. And in fact, if I press a magic button down here, we should be able to have a look at the Classic FM website, and we can see it says vote in the Classic FM Hall of Fame 2023. The option to win some brilliant tech prizes. So if you want to perhaps win an Amazon Echo or an Apple Watch, you can enter. But of course, the most important thing is that we want everyone, if possible, to vote for, well, the wonderful Quanta Qualia by your good self.
Well, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? I mean, I first had a piece in the Hall of Fame in 2004. How long ago is that? Nearly 20 years, which is the year Blue in Blue was released. And of course, the first track is Quanta Qualia.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely thrilled. And in those days, it came in at 63, which is the highest I've ever been. And it was the highest and quickest entry into the Hall of Fame by a new composer, so on. Of course, since then I'm a lot older and a lot more kind of tried and tested. And for a few years, it lost its place in the Hall of Fame. I think a lot of the computer game composers video game composers got very savvy, and a lot of their fans voted for them, and it kind of knocked some of us off the shelf. Not that I want to appear desperate in asking people to vote for me or it, meaning at Quanta Qualia, but it is nice for it to be there. You know, it kind of gives recognition for what you do, and it helps to inspire me to do more.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to be in the Hall of Fame. It is a really a very important date in the calendar when it's announced. It's over Easter weekend, isn't it? That they go
Yeah, it's
through
over 3 days.
and
It's
they
4 days. It's Good
tease it out.
Friday, I think.
It's
I think they
Good
start on
Friday,
Good Friday
and
and
of
finish
course,
on Easter Monday.
we at Choir of the Earth, formerly Self Isolation Choir, we know Quanta Qualia really very well because of that incredibly memorable summer of 2020, when we were all still in lockdown, and you so very kindly allowed us to sing your piece, gave us a brilliant workshop, and led to that first, now infamous recording with that wonderful saxophone played by Sophie.
Yeah,
Just
it's
touched
Sophie.
everyone's heart. And do you mind me asking, how did it feel for you when we performed it? Because I remember you were there in the chat. And how did it feel to hear the choir singing?
I've got all goosebumpy really because, quite simply, Ben, you and the Choir of the Earth, hello everybody, breathe new life into Quanta Qualia. I mean, if you look on YouTube, Hayley Weston sang it, and it's got a few million hits, I think. But you know, around 2010 to 2015, it kind of lost its way a bit, and it's one of my very first compositions, and in many ways one of my very best, I feel. And it's special to me because the words are by my brother Andrew. And so when you sang it that day, it was like it just came into life. And you're right, there were all the comments down on the right of the screen, weren't there? And as soon as I said, hello, I'm here, I had a bombardment of singers. And you stopped the recording, or the rehearsal, and said, Patrick, it's lovely you're here. And I immediately felt part of a family then. And there was one moment, do you remember I wrote, I've never heard this section like it.
I will never forget that comment. I was in the middle of conducting, and of course, when I'm waving, I'm looking at the camera as I am right now, but I will always glance down to just check something isn't going wrong. It's one of the scary things about this job, and when I'm waving my arms away and the sound stopped or something, so I just glanced down, and you wrote something to the effect of exactly that. This is the best this section's ever sounded.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've never had such instant feedback from a composer. You know, normally you have to wait until the performance is over for them to come up and say it, but during the performance to have that, and it was like a bolt of lightning.
Well, that's one of the great things though about this type of choir, isn't it? Because it's of the moment, the composer can interact with the singers. I mean, it's really amazing. I think it's one of the great things the internet has done for musical performance.
Well, of course, I'm going to agree wholeheartedly with you, Phil. Obviously, but no, I do think you're right. It is a new way of learning and teaching and appreciating music that doesn't require the sort of hierarchy that going to a performance, you know, demands. That, you know, very, very infrequently will you be able, when you go to the Royal Festival Hall or the Proms, to go and actually meet the conductor or speak to them, or the composer. You know, you see them from afar, whereas with the way we perform, you know, the composer is here with you in the comments and can appreciate your chat. And one of the things that Mark used to do right back at the beginning, he doesn't do it so much these days because, you know, we're 3 years old in a couple of weeks' time.
Is that all? God, I think more than that.
We've certainly done enough music to fill 10 years in 3. But what Mark would always do is to take screenshots of the comments, because it moves so quickly, and send them. And I'm pretty sure he sent you just pages and pages of screenshots of all these wonderful comments from the choir who were just so moved. I remember because we have spoken about this piece before in conversation, and I remember you telling me how you were sat, if I'm right, you were sat towards the very end of your career as a teacher, and I can completely empathise with that, having done the same thing, having taught for many years and then moved into professional music, but sitting and the chords just sort of flowing naturally from where you were emotionally. And do you mind just reminding us where the origin of that chord sequence came from?
No, you're absolutely right. I finished teaching at a school called Charterhouse in Surrey. That was the end of my teaching career, where I'd met some brilliant young musicians. And I decided if I was going to be a composer, then properly, then I had to try and do it before I was 40. I had to make the break from teaching. And I found the last year of my teaching very difficult, as this new kind of void opened up. And I began to suffer from depression. I don't mind saying that to people out there. I know a lot of musicians do. And it was about a week before I gave up teaching and moved, and all the boxes were packed around me. And it was like a kind of moment in time where I was feeling so pent up with so many feelings. And as I often do, and you and many listening to this will do, will sit at the piano and feel your way around. And I was doing this. So this would be kind of July, August 1997. I was doing this, and I suddenly stopped and thought, God, that's really nice. So I reached for my manuscript book and I started to write it down. And do you know, actually, it's very strange, but we moved house recently and I've been sorting things out, and I found the bit of manuscript paper.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with it on. It's all very, very rough and crossed out, most of it. But I think it's either 13, no, it's not 13 bars, it's 21, 23 bars of progression, which just seem to unfold, because you know how you doodle with things and you write a few chords and it kind of comes to a rest.
Yeah.
Might start again. It just kept expanding out. and it was written very much not from my mind.
Mm.
It was written very much from here.
I think that comes across.
Yeah, yeah.
The flow.
And anyway, I experimented then on my sequencer and computer with an oboe melody,
Mm.
which actually now is taken up by either the saxophone or the cello, the two different versions. Sent it to my brother, who I work a lot with, and he was just a few days and got back and he said, I think we should call it Quanta Qualia, and I've written these words in Latin, and that was it. You know, little did I know, decades later, the choir of the earth would be singing it in their thousands,
Well,
or that it may even find its way onto classic FM. I mean, you know,
well,
I never believed that.
I've heard Quanta Qualia performed by Voces 8 and Haley Westerrow on Classic FM, but for me, it will always be the two versions that Choir of the
Yeah.
Earth and
Well,
Self-Isolation.
it's that epicness. It's an epic piece, isn't it? I mean, it's sort of limitless. I was talking about the way the chords unfold in this kind of, you know, spacious way, and the sustained chords, the growling in the bass.
Mm.
There is something of space about it
There
and
is,
infinity about it,
there is.
which suits so much the choir.
Yeah, there is an almost oceanic feel to
Yes, oceanic, yeah.
there is, you know, the currents churning underneath, and you've got the depth, but you've also got the very brightest, highest pitches at the top. No, it's a extraordinary piece that clearly came from a place of deep emotion, of deep feeling, which then inspired the words that then we, as you say, 2+ decades later, we reached for this piece at a time of great need.
Yeah.
Um, not just for a piece of music, but for a piece that would, I think, encapsulate how we were all feeling. And
Separated and lonely.
that's it. I mean, Messiah was our first project, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a huge challenge, but that was more of a sort of a, I don't want to say a distraction, but you know, we didn't want to do anything that was going to necessarily tap into those emotions in this first project. We needed something kind of the musical equivalent of baking banana bread, watching Netflix, just something for those 2 months to keep everyone from going mad. And you know, I put my hand up and say that it was vital for me to do that as
Yeah.
well. But as the year progressed, it became clear that this wasn't just going to go away after 2 months. And I think the reality of what we were facing, a couple of very difficult years, and of course it's still with us, um, when that hit, Quanta Qualia was the perfect piece
Yeah.
for the choir to really just tap into all that emotion. I mean, the number of submissions we had from people who were clearly fighting back tears, you know, you can hear that in their singing.
Yeah. Well, I actually had a lot of emails through my website, through Twitter, which maybe you never saw actually, Ben, but saying how moved they were by it. And somehow it helped connect many people to loved ones who were very ill or maybe even dying in hospital. When, you know, that's the most unforgivable thing, isn't it? That you couldn't be with your loved ones as they passed away. And I do know I've got the kind of the testimonials there, which I keep, all of them, saying this.
Mm. No, it was the absolute perfect piece
Mm.
for that summer. I've told you this story before. I'm not sure I've necessarily shared it with the wider choir, but my wonderful wife Anna, who with whom I've been lucky enough to be with for 25 years this year.
You don't look old enough, Ben.
She's you know I'm a very lucky man. She's put up with an awful lot, but she's an amazing musician. She's a concert pianist. She's played for the choir many times, and because we've been together so long, um, she very rarely gets emotional about anything I do because it's just normal. And yet when I played her the first draft of Quanta Qualia, she was in bits, and it was a real sort of moment for me of, you know, this online choir stuff. It's not just a flash in the pan. It's not just Messiah, which was great fun and exciting and new. But Quanta Qualia for me was the moment that this art form actually became something that you could express music that was as powerful as anything you would experience in person in a different way.
Yeah.
And so for me, that first recording is super special. If I was on Desert Island Discs, it would be one of my choices without doubt.
Actually, it was on somebody's Desert Island disc, wasn't it?
Dame Louise Casey.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Who's done huge work for the homeless, and she chose it as her last piece. And as she was talking about it, her voice was cracking with emotion.
I remember. Yeah.
It was just such a powerful, powerful experience. And of course, that wasn't where we stopped. We could very well have just said, well, that's it. It's done. Let's just play it over and over again. But we decided to come back to it in 2021. And, well, you very kindly allowed us to be a bit cheeky, okay? And to change the instrumentation of the piece, because you'd written it for choir. And then you, remind me, was it Voces 8 that asked you to add the saxophone?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
In fact, Watchers 8 recorded both the saxophone and the cello.
Ah, right.
I can't quite remember why. I think they thought both would work and they picked the saxophone thing. I have to come clean here though, and say I loved both performances.
Yeah.
We've already spoken about the first one with the saxophone, but when I heard the cello, and the mixing of your wonderful engineers at Choir of the Earth, I mean, that really is that piece for me now, that particular recording, I have to say.
Well, it just so happens, Patrick, that at the touch of a button, I happen to have that performance ready to go.
Are we going to listen to it?
I think we should.
Oh dear, I'll get all tearful.
Well, so will I, and so will everyone watching. But the point of this chat is to remind everyone, just what a special piece this is, what a special performance this was. Because, of course, this version we're going to hear was the remastered version, and we had everyone record for it, but we kept all of the original voices from the first recording. So it is an amalgam of two performances over a year apart, with everything that we'd learnt in between, but still with those immensely emotional, immensely moving performances. It's very special. I think I should press the button and play it. Here's Quanta Qualia, everyone. Remember, you get to vote for this in the Classic FM Hall of Fame. I'll show you the address in a minute. Now I'm going to shut up and let this lovely music play. Here we go. Well, that's
You almost don't want to speak after it, do you?
that's a bit good, isn't it? That really is.
Well, do you know, it's extraordinary, isn't it? I think for me now, that is Quanta Qualia. I'm not just saying that.
Well, I
You know,
know
I
you
just
should.
think I
Go
don't
on.
know. I think we got the speed just right, Ben, as well.
Mm. Well, this is all still based on the original guide tracks that you made
Yeah, I know, but
back in
it's.
2020. It's all built from that sort of genesis where you said
I
this
think
is
it.
how it
I think
goes.
it's slightly faster than I originally wrote it, but it's much better for it.
Mm.
Um,
The
the
flow
cello
is
playing
so
is out of this world,
well.
isn't it?
I mean, Jackson is just incredible,
Yes,
and I know
exactly.
she's going to be playing live at a performance of it that will be giving at Rugby School later this year.
Oh,
But
when I'm coming, I'm going to be talking.
so looking forward to that. But
Yeah,
that recording, I'll be honest, it's been a while since I've actually stopped and just listened to
me
it
too.
with nothing else going on, and I mean, it really hasn't lost any of its magic.
Do you know? I think talking of Classic FM, they should play this version.
Well, we have tried and we continue to
I
try.
know, and I'm going to try even more. I mean, you know, if it
Wonderful.
if it does do well in the Hall of Fame, it gives me a little bit more of extra.
Well, that gives me a great excuse to bring back on screen the website here, everyone. And I'm sure we all agree that this incredible piece that Patrick's written deserves to be heard far and wide, almost irregardless of the version. So if you can go to the website here, which is halloffame.classicfm.com, you can see the address just over here. You've got 12 days from when we're recording this, so hopefully we'll get this out tomorrow, everyone, which should be the 11th of March. If you can go over there and enter, it's very, very straightforward. You pick your pieces. So in here you would type Quanta, and up it comes, and you click on it to say your choice has been added. Choose 2 more pieces. So entirely up to you which pieces you choose. I think the Highgrove Suite is on there as well, Patrick. And
That would be amazing.
that,
Sorry, this is pushing my luck a little bit, I think, everybody. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but Highgrove Suite, which I wrote for the then Prince of Wales in 2010, was in the Hall of Fame and then fell away. It'd be great if it could be
well,
back in.
let's see.
I think it's the other piece of mine that Classic FM seem to love. So, and then there is the third movement of the Highgrove Suite, which is called Sanctuary. I actually had the words in my mind that are around the archway of the Sanctuary at Highgrove,
Oh, wow.
which the Prince of Wales created for the millennium. And they are from the third collect from Evensong, Light in Our Darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord,
Wow.
and by thy great mercy, all that. I could do a choral version of it.
Oh, there you see, you're really.
Now that would be groundbreaking.
It really.
I've gone goosebumpy again.
That would just be incredible. Well, look, let's get everyone voting for Quanta Qualia at the very least, and also the Highgrove Suite. If you don't know it, have a listen to it, folks. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, please do, guys.
But the most important thing is we want Quanta Qualia to be well represented. Thanks to the votes and the efforts of Choir of the Earth members, Quanta Qualia, I believe, was the highest ever re-entry.
It was a few years ago. That was, I think, 2 years ago. Again, because it was just after we performed it, 2021. I just want to say to you, Ben, and everybody out there, I know I'm just looking into a computer, but I hope you get something of just how much this really means to me, the fact that you have sung this piece again. As I say, bring it to new life. And all we're really trying to do, I suppose, Ben and myself and Mark and all of you, is just try and get it to a wider audience. Because we need healing music. There's a lot of music being written today which isn't that healing. And it's not for want of personal glory at all. It's just for love of my music, like you love your children. It's the same thing for me. I haven't got children, but for me, my pieces are my children. So there we are.
Well, we will do all we can. I know that everyone watching will be going off now and voting for Quanta Qualia and telling all their friends and families to do the same. And I have to say, we're so looking forward to performing your new piece, which you've written just for us, Parches et Caritas, which we're going to be
Yes.
doing over the summer. So in just a few short months, we'll be working on that brand new piece
That's
by your good
exciting.
self. And hopefully we'll be sat here in a year's time getting us to vote for that one on the
Yeah, well, who knows? Who knows what's
time.
going to happen?
Let's get everyone watching to go to, I'll bring that address up on screen again, halloffame.classicfm.com. Would you please, everyone watching, vote for Patrick Hawes and his Quanta Qualia, and we will be delighted then to listen in over Easter weekend.
Yes. I wonder how high it could get, Ben. I think with all these votes, it could do really well, which would be very newsworthy, wouldn't it?
It would. It would, and certainly for us, we would be thrilled to help you get Quanta Qualia up in the rankings, and then you never know, Classic FM could come knocking. And
yes, exactly.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Which they should, which they ought to. I don't mind saying that.
Patrick, as always, it's such a joy to speak to you, and just thank you for all that you've done to encourage and support this choir, which is made of, as I'm sure you know, thousands of people all around the world. And we all absolutely love your music and just wish you all the best for the
Get emotional now.
Oh, there's lots of
again.
Lots of people have got emotional thanks to your music. So just huge thanks from all of us. Very best of luck with the Hall of Fame, and we do hope that everything you're working on is going really well as well.
Thank you, Ben.
So we'll look forward to seeing you soon. All the best. Everyone watching, go and vote for Quanta Qualia.
Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye, Ben.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.